Hello, everyone. Today, I'm excited to introduce a great speaker and a great motivational woman, Katharine Wolf. She is a graduate from Stanford, and a few years back, she started Odetta Community, which was a platform of AI and data analytics that brought freelancing women together. To my surprise, I found that community to be brewing with love and compassion. There is no jealousy, there is no comparison. And I've seen Catherine personally involved in not only the professional progress of the woman, but also social well-being of Odetta community women. So I just requested her to share with us her journey. Welcome, Kathy.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much for having me.
It's an honor, and I'm really excited because there's so much we want to hear from you about. To start with, what makes you so popular, successful as a woman entrepreneur?
I wouldn't consider myself popular, but as a woman entrepreneur, I guess I'm proud to be a woman entrepreneur. I think that Odetta is an example of a service maybe that a woman saw that needed to be created in a world where a lot of services and products are built not by women. So that to me is, it's just kind of a suggestion that we need more people to be building products and services, especially for regions and groups of people that are often overlooked by the market, because they can be great, great businesses and really help advance society. And so that's what Odetta is.
I've seen the best part of Odetta, the way the community comes together for everyone. And you're always very actively promoting it and involved in it. But then, as an entrepreneur, I'm sure there's a challenging side of the things which you don't share with the community just so that no one is depressed or upset. But how do you persevere when the things are not going right?
Okay, so persevering through tough times. I think pretty early on, I picked my battles. So with anything, right? Like what you focus on is kind of like what you become, and you can think about something over and over and over again, and then that's what you're thinking about over and over again. So I think it's really important to I guess be very thoughtful about what it is that you're focusing on, because there's thousands of things you can think about. So if I focused on all of the ways that this could fail, or all of the things that were most scary, I don't think I would get out of bed. But I don't do that at all. I have a very clear, I kind of focus on the things that I think I can do well and that make me happy. And I write a lot of things down. I find journaling is really helpful. I like to kind of use that to gain perspective. I write every day. I started doing that about a year and a half ago. I would write previously when I had kind of questions, but now I write every day and try to think about, okay, well, this is happening. This is a challenge. What is the lesson to be learned from this? I think in good times, and this is a really interesting thing. I think like we have, there's just like a lot going on inside for every one of us. And you have this sense that if this was just fixed, like everything would be better. And then when you fix that, you realize that, that's really not true. It's kind of endless, like a new thing will pop up. And so I found that kind of the darker times when there's a lot going on, that's the most interesting, even though it's kind of like challenging emotionally, you have to kind of like feel a lot of things and move through it. That's really where you're growing the most. So I don't mind the tough times. I don't mind kind of like the fight for survival. I think sometimes in the good times, I'm like wondering, I'm wondering about my existence and asking harder questions. So in short, I journal. I also try to use journaling to listen to my inner voice. I kind of have, I think I've just had a belief for a very long time now that we have everything that we need is inside of us. And really the kind of like the goal is to try to remove all of the other things and listen to your intuition. And that's been really, really hard for me. I was very disconnected from that for a really long time. And Odetta is an example where I'm very deeply involved on a granular level because intuitively that's what Odetta needs. And so, yeah, so I'm very in touch with kind of what I think Odetta needs, and that's coming from my intuition, not what someone else is telling me what to do. So if that's true, then everyone out there has their inner voice, and that's kind of like telling them what to do. And so in every instance, you can kind of just go inside and listen to it, and it'll tell you what to do, which I find to be very helpful.
That is honestly so true, except for my inner voice is usually just making fun of me all the time. I think it's not very mature. But thank you. And that is correct. Sometimes you have to pause and let things be. My next question would have been, what do you plan to achieve next? But I think someone who goes where the heart takes, they don't even know. But do you have plans for expanding Odetta somewhere concretely at the moment?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think I've pared down kind of my ambitions, which were like when I started the company, incredibly lofty and would require maybe a different type of CEO, just kind of like we wanted to build a 1,000,000-person company, and it was just this really big vision. And so that's how we started. And then now, as I've gotten to understand kind of like what Odetta is and what I think we can build and what I can build as a leader, the ambition is to build a 10,000 women company from all over the world. And it's really important how we build it, like just to build this really, really happy platform where people are able to fulfill the potential inside themselves. And then while doing it, I want to be proud of the way that we build it. So in terms of like outside intervention, like we're very careful who we let into the platform so that we can keep the kind of the culture. We're very careful about the partners that we take. I think so that all of it, we can kind of all live in alignment. So yeah, so that, it's just a number, 10,000 women, which is, you just need kind of sometimes a number to like chart toward. But yeah, that's what we are hoping to build. And it isn't really about like kind of fancy tech. It's much more kind of like a humanistic company that at some point there may be fancy tech, but that's not the reason why we're building the company.
So you think, given your plan, is womanhood a strong enough denominator for professional women to stick together excitedly and doing good job in their work also professionally?
Say that again?
My question is that is womanhood a strong enough denominator for professional workplace, especially virtual professional workplace?
Womanhood. Odetta is kind of a community of women. Yeah, and I would say kind of like there's a sisterhood that ties us all together. And the undercurrent is that of being underdogs. It's like we're really attracting people who have kind of just these incredible desires to be more. And so I think that's really what we're doing. And it is centered around womanhood because that's really where the opportunity is. I mean, I think all over the world, if you look at the kind of like the statistics of what's going on, there's just like these very talented women who, if work were designed differently, they could participate. And so, so for us, I think we happen to be kind of advancing society forward with this thesis around womanhood, but it could be, it could be some other thing. It's just the idea behind it is that work is outdated. And so if we can build for women who, I guess, just by the nature of a lot of the additional roles that they take on in their family, would benefit from this. And then the thesis also that sometimes if you create a kind of a female-centered environment, really magical things can happen, especially in places where that doesn't really exist. that's really what Odetta is. It's a group of people who've been kind of overlooked, who often have to change the way that they are to adapt and live in kind of a male-dominated environment. And that's in the US, it's in every part of the world. But especially in the regions where we are. And then we're proving to the world that this kind of group of people is kind of the highest quality there ever was. And so I think sometimes people are surprised, but a lot of times our clients are not surprised. They kind of are like, yeah, of course, this makes a lot of sense. So I think, yeah, we're taking the underdog.
Thank you very much. I have two more questions to ask. One
Yeah.
is, what would be your message to all the freelancing women, women who want to be entrepreneurs? What would be your message to them?
Okay, so I think for all freelancers I would say separately to kind of women entrepreneurs, but I think freelancers, we're living in a time where there's a tremendous opportunity to kind of like work in the way that you want to work. And what it does require is like cold, hard sales. So it's important to kind of know what you want to learn, understand your value, and then be able to communicate to people what that value is. And then I think also being willing to take a job that isn't necessarily kind of the most high paying, so you can learn what the market wants, get really good at it, and then demand your value. I'm not saying don't get paid, but I'm saying that in this market, sometimes you need to get 15 jobs on Upwork, and then you get access to a lot because you've already proven yourself. So freelancers, I think, are in a very good position to be able to work according to their schedules, according to what they want, and then ultimately kind of out earn and out learn. Just because the world has woken up through the pandemic to kind of that there's talent everywhere, and people are looking for their talent. And in the US, at least, there's a labor market shortage, especially at these tech companies. And so if you can package yourself and present yourself with the skills that people need, you can get work. And I think the missing link is often the ability to package and communicate in kind of a sense of urgency in the way that these companies are looking for. So that's where Odetta can be a bridge. That's kind of a lot of what we're doing, is that kind of presentation and packaging, which is kind of why we are building out this account management team. And then to female founders, I think like any founder, you can do it your own way. There's just never been a time when there's just been so many. It's not that it's easier to build a company, but that there's so many different ways you can build a company. You do not have to follow the blueprint of the way other people are doing it. And so in order to survive, you need to figure out the financial, at least I had to kind of like, how can you survive without earning money for as long as possible? So oftentimes you need another job while you're starting the company. That makes sense. So I would say really, you may have a couple companies in you. So just start with one, but ideally get to the one that you're kind of most passionate about, because it requires all of you. And then as you know, and then build it in the way that you want to. I think I struggled really early on in that there was a certain way to build a company. You had to take venture, you had to get a CTO, you had to do all of these different things. And now sitting back, having not done a lot of what everyone else said we had to do, we're actually in a better position than most of these companies and most of my friends who started companies who did all of these things. And that's because I kind of listened to myself and was like, no, that doesn't sound right. I don't want to do that. So I think we're going to see a kind of an emergence of a lot of founders who are not going to be, who come and who look different, who are coming from many different places, who are solving real problems. And in a place like Pakistan, you can literally take any company idea that has worked well in another region and build it for the market of hundreds of millions of people. And so if I were a founder in Pakistan right now, I would be looking at all of the services that do not exist that should exist. And be building out those services. I don't think it has to be super high tech. It can be, an example would be there's a major problem around childcare. Maybe there are companies building that, but there are a lot of great examples of what's worked elsewhere, and I would be applying that to the market. And there's been kind of, I know, an emergence of of funders who want to invest, but there's a massive market to serve. And I think there's a lot of products and services to be built. So I think it's an incredibly exciting time right now to be a founder. And yeah, I would just figure out what it is that most excites you, as opposed to kind of like what other people say you should do. I mean, I would never build a company just because it's like in trend or sounds good or whatnot. It has to be kind of like, this is so motivating, and I'm going to wake up, I'm not a morning person. So when I was trying to figure out what idea to build, one of my tests was, can I wake up early and do it? And how many days in a row can I do that? And I worked on kind of like probably 15, 20 different ideas before Odetta. And some of them would last for 2 weeks, some would last in 3 weeks. I was at another job, and I was, kind of working in the mornings and in the evenings on other ideas. And this is for years. I was doing this because I knew that I wanted to build a company. And some I would get excited about, and I have a co-founder, and I'd work for like 2 or 3 days, and then I wouldn't want to work on it anymore. And so that was my test of, kind of like, what am I like intrinsically motivated by? And Odetta was the first one where I was waking up at like 5 a.m. and I was, I could do it like 3 weeks in a row, and I didn't need a co-founder, and it was like endlessly interesting. And so that's how I knew that this is what I would build.
Thank you so much. That actually clears a lot of things which are fuzzy for starters. Thank you for sharing your journey so honestly. Kat, my last question is, would you recommend a good book to read? Generally, anything?
Yeah, I mean, I read a book this year that I loved. It's a little bit more centered around mindfulness and kind of like clearing the mind. One of my goals this year is to become better at meditation. It's called Awareness by Thomas DeMello. And it is, I listened on audiobooks. It's a kind of 4-hour, I guess like audio version. And it helped me a lot in terms of like removing attachments and kind of like clearing my mind. And thank you so much for doing this. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much.